The Calligrapher and the Curse of the Black Ink. Fahd was the finest calligrapher in the City of Light. His letters were not mere ink on paper, but living souls that almost spoke with a voice of beauty and power. He lived a simple, quiet life, finding his solace and happiness in the gentle scratching of his reed pen and the ancient scent of parchment. One stormy night, as the wind howled through the narrow alleys, a violent knock struck his workshop door. He opened it to find the formidable palace guards, their armor gleaming in the lantern light, and behind them stood the Vizier, Zill al-Din, the most powerful man in the kingdom after the Sultan, his cold eyes always hiding behind a mask of feigned dignity. The Vizier spoke, his voice quiet but carrying the unyielding weight of a command. "We have a task for you, pride of the calligraphers. A task that will make you richer than any merchant, and more famous than any poet." Fahd was taken to a secret, windowless chamber deep within the palace's foundations. The room was stark and empty except for a single stone table in the center, upon which lay a large book bound in plain black leather, and beside it, a strange inkwell carved from a single piece of gleaming black obsidian. The Vizier said, "This book contains the greatest poem ever written. Your task is to transcribe it with your beautiful script into this empty tome. But, you must use only this ink." Fahd looked at the ink in the obsidian well. It was blacker than the night itself, and it seemed to move slowly, thickly, as if it were alive. He felt a vague unease crawl up his spine and said, "But what is this ink, my Lord Vizier?" The Vizier smiled a cold smile that did not reach his eyes and said, "Do not ask questions. Just write." "So, what is the terrifying secret that lies between the pages of this mysterious book? And how will this black ink turn the innocent calligrapher's talent into the most dangerous weapon in the world? Stay with us to witness a story where beauty becomes a beast, and words become prisons." Forced and filled with dread, Fahd sat down and began his work. He dipped his pen into the black ink and felt an unnatural, icy chill run up his arm, a coldness that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. With a trembling hand, he drew the first word of the poem, "snake." No sooner was the final stroke of the word complete on the page than the ink began to move and writhe. A real snake made of living shadow emerged from between the lines, its eyes glowing with a malevolent green evil. Fahd leaped back in terror, but the Vizier merely laughed a dry laugh and dispatched the shadow creature with a single, effortless strike of his staff. Zill al-Din said, sneering at Fahd's fear, "Do you think such power comes easily? I traveled to the forgotten valleys of shadow, fought the guardians of silence, and solved the riddle of the bottomless well to obtain a single drop of this ink. I paid a heavy price, and now it is your turn to pay the price for your talent. This is no ordinary ink. It is magical ink, able to turn the written word into reality. And you will create an invincible army for me." Fahd realized he had fallen into a deadly trap. He had become a weapon in the hands of a man mad with power. He tried to refuse, his voice shaking, but the Vizier threatened to burn every book in the city's grand library and eliminate every scholar if he did not obey. For days, Fahd worked like a prisoner, his heart aching with every word he wrote. He wrote terrifying words and saw monstrosities materialize before him. He wrote "spider," and a giant spider with 8 glowing red eyes emerged, letting out a loud hiss and lunging directly at Fahd. Fahd screamed and fell backward. But, before the spider's venomous fangs could reach him, 3 soldiers made of shadow materialized in the room. They moved with supernatural speed and sliced the beast with swords of black glass, reducing it to a mere inkblot on the floor. The Vizier looked at Fahd coldly and said, "You see? You are not alone here. You are always being watched. Do not think of escaping." One night, while Fahd was copying the word "wolf," his hand intentionally trembled at the last moment, adding a tiny, invisible dot in the eye of the word. The wolf emerged from the book, but it was blind, howling in confusion. The vizier noticed and became enraged. He struck Fahd across the face and said, "Do not try to deceive me. Tomorrow, you will write the greatest word for me. You will write the name of the ghoul, the legendary, invincible beast. And after that, I will take the throne and rule this city." Fahd spent the night in his cold cell, knowing that tomorrow was the day of doom. But he did not give up. He was a calligrapher, and he knew that the power of words lay not only in their meaning, but also in the empty spaces between them. The next day, Fahd stood before the black book, with the vizier and his guards watching him. He dipped his pen in the ink and began to write, slowly and with a magnificence he had never written with before. He wrote the word ghoul, and the letters pulsed with a dark, terrible power. As he lifted his pen, the room began to shake violently. The ghoul emerged from the book, a giant creature of rock and fire. The vizier laughed a triumphant laugh. But his laughter turned into a scream of pure terror. The ghoul was not free. Fahd had written the word, but he had done something ingenious. Around it, with ordinary ink he had hidden in his clothes, he had drawn a chain of other, very small words. He wrote, chain, shackles, obedience, prison. The ghoul emerged from the book, but it was bound by invisible chains forged from the meanings of the other words. It was a slave not to the vizier, but to the calligrapher who had written it. Fahd looked at the ghoul, pointed to the vizier, and said in a quiet voice, as if it carried the power of the cosmos, "Seize him." The ghoul seized the vizier and his guards, trapping them in one of the magical cages. At that moment, the just sultan arrived with his soldiers, having been alerted by a secret message from a loyal servant. The sultan saw the ghoul and the captive vizier, understanding the extent of the betrayal and the scale of the courage. He ordered the ink's magic to be undone, returning the beasts to mere words on paper, and the treacherous vizier was arrested. As for Fahd, the sultan rewarded him, appointing him as the royal calligrapher and the guardian of the great palace library. And here, our compass points to the heart of the story and its wisdom. This story guides us to understand that talent is a double-edged sword. It can be used for creation and beauty, or for destruction and chaos. The vizier wanted to use Fahd's art as a tool of tyranny, but Fahd proved that a true artist is the master of his tool, not its slave. The hub of the story today is that true power lies not in the words themselves, but in the wisdom of knowing how and when to use them. For a master calligrapher is not only skilled at drawing letters, but also at understanding the immense power that lies in the empty spaces between them. If you possessed such magical ink, would you use it to achieve your dreams or to help others? Share your thoughts in the comments. We want to thank you, our dear followers, for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe to The Alchemist's Tales to discover a new depth in our next tale.